Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, dog?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the code check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do?
We get the people what they want.
It's Friday, everybody. You made it.
Yep.
Welcome to Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. Of course, it is NFL Championship weekend. The conference champions will be decided on Sunday. We will know who is going to match up in the Super Bowl. We'll start with the NFC. How can the Falcons stop Aaron Rodgers and the Red Hot Packers?
One of the things that's truly going to be a factor is injuries. While there have been injuries on both sides of the football for the Packers, in the defensive backfield, as well as their wide receiver core. In particular, Jordy Nelson, who, based on what I know about fractured ribs, he won't be playing football this Sunday. The Green Bay Packers have been on a terrific run. They've won 8 straight. Aaron Rodgers has been amazing. A couple of plays have just been breathtaking. The Hail Mary against the Giants right before the half. The 3rd and 20 play that turned out to be a 30-plus yard completion where he scrambled left in the previous game has been outstanding. But I don't think he's going to be enough this weekend.
You don't?
No.
You have the Falcons beating the Packers.
If Atlanta is going to win the NFC and potentially win the Super Bowl, listen up, A-Town. This is going to be one of the best opportunities you've had and probably will have in a long time.
I cannot think of in my lifetime a better Falcons team than this one.
And a lot of that has to do with timing. I talked a lot about unlikely champions when the Cavs finally win something for the city of Cleveland, or when the Cubs finally win in Chicago. The NFC was wide open until the Dallas Cowboys took control. And they kept control the entire season. The Carolina Panthers had a Super Bowl hangover. People still looked at the Seattle Seahawks as the team that made it to back-to-back Super Bowls, winning one. Neither one of those things came to fruition. Then all of a sudden the Giants came out of nowhere. Landon Collins on defense. We know about Odell Beckham on offense. Maybe if they were a little more focused all the way through, maybe they had the opportunity to advance. We'd never know. And obviously the Green Bay Packers, led by Aaron Rodgers, though they lost Eddie Lacy during the year. But when they get to the Georgia Dome this weekend, the Atlanta Falcons were the most explosive offense in football, not the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people look at these last 8 games and probably think that Aaron Rodgers has thrown for more yards this season than Matt Ryan. That is not the case.
There's some interesting numbers about the head-to-head comparisons of these two quarterbacks since Week 12. Who do you think has more yards per attempt since Week 12?
Matt Ryan.
Who do you think has a better touchdown-to-interception ratio since
Ryan.
Week 12? Who do you think has a better completion percentage and a better total QBR since Week 12?
Ryan. And also, to give you more science, they've had 13 individuals catch touchdown passes. That's the most in the history of the league.
Wow.
What? They led in multiple offensive categories. And how about this? I have not mentioned that they have a gentleman on their team named Julio Jones.
Julio Jones.
Who's the best receiver in football.
Wait.
And there's more. They also have what's considered the best combination of catch plus rushing backs in the league with Coleman and Freeman. That's going to be the difference. Remember, I told you this. The running backs for the Atlanta Falcons are going to have their way against the Green Bay Packers. This is going to tip the scales, will be the reason why the Atlanta Falcons will advance to this year's Super Bowl.
Exciting news for those in Atlanta. Now, you spend a lot of time in Atlanta as well, and I have a question. Are they an overlooked, unlucky sports city? Because I'm thinking back, I know the Braves have a couple of World Series trophies, but I'm thinking about the Hawks. I'm like, the Hawks have not won an NBA championship in my lifetime. And I think about the Falcons. I'm like, the Falcons haven't won a Super Bowl in my lifetime. Is it an unlucky sports city? Is it their time? You talk about sort of like, the Cubs winning the World Series and the Cavs winning the NBA championship. Is it time for Atlanta to have a come up?
Possibly. And if you get to the Super Bowl and say you face either team out of the AFC, Pittsburgh or New England, you could clearly make a case, flip a coin 50-50 if they can close the deal at that point. I don't think it's been what's considered an unlucky sports town. Mm-hmm. Other than the Braves, they just haven't been able to sustain excellence and being a contender in the two sports that you mentioned. They've had a firestorm of Hall of Famers come through there when you have Dominique Wilkins, the human highlight film, and you have primetime Neon Deion Sanders and Michael Vick. These players come through like Halley's Comet and then they disappear. And so now a resurgent Falcons team still has to live down recent memory that we've seen them come up small in the playoffs. And I'm also going to, while we're talking about great sports towns acknowledged for the Falcons, Matt Ryan did a terrific job stepping in at the point that he did and becoming a top flight quarterback. Despite all of the distractions that were happening within the organization, that's why, I said it, not Tom Brady, not Aaron Rodgers, not Zeke or Dak. Matt Ryan, will be this year's NFL MVP.
Jalen Rose has the Falcons winning on Sunday and Matt Ryan winning the MVP. Let's take a look at the AFC Championship game. How much of a distraction can this Facebook live streaming thing actually be, and how much will it affect what happens on the field in Foxborough?
I want to teach everybody something that works in a team dynamic, has to be accountable to coworkers or teammates. If I'm being asked about something you did or said that has zero to do with the outcome of the game, that's what's considered a distraction. So whether you're partying at Live or on a yacht, wearing the same clothes you wore the night before, when somebody comes to my locker and asks me about you and your behavior, that's a distraction. The Facebook Live situation with Antonio Brown, that mirrors that in a different way. Mike Tomlin had to spend time addressing it. So did Big Ben. So did other teammates. Is that going to be the reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers win or lose the football game? No. Will it be something that now, if they don't win the football game, people can look at and say that was an unnecessary evil that probably cost them an opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl? That will be discussed, regardless of how well Antonio Brown plays.
He needs to play well. He's put this on himself. He needs to play well now. He needs a couple touchdowns to sort of wash the stink from the Facebook stream off. Looking at the Patriots, there's some holes in this Patriot team. Obviously Brady, Belichick, they're going to prepare. Obviously they've got a great scheme. This is what they do. But they haven't really faced a good quarterback all season long. Russell Wilson is arguably the best quarterback that they've faced. And also, the line didn't do a great job protecting Brady last week against that Texans pass rush. And we know that the Steelers have something for him.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And I'm glad you brought up Brady, New England, system, and Belichick. This misnomer that Tom Brady is only a puppet to Bill Belichick's system, and therefore we want to diminish his all-time greatness, is absurd. I know when you see dual-threat quarterbacks, you get enamored by them. Who won the MVP last year? Cam Newton. People were saying the exact same things about him last year that I'm hearing about Aaron Rodgers right now. Because they're amazing, not only making plays in the pocket, but clearly when the play breaks down and make plays outside of the pocket. But there's also a beauty to a pocket passer. And by my recollection, the two greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league are Joe Montana and Tom Brady, who both do it from the pocket. So we can get enamored by the physical tools of great athletes, but this Tom Brady's only a product of the system when the best receiver he had was what, Randy Moss?
For 2 years.
The only all-pro at that position. That wasn't the case when they were winning Super Bowls. Yes, they have Gronk. Gronk is, to me, the second best player in the league when healthy. But they're not products of the system, though it does help when you're drafted to a team that makes quality decisions, has an amazing coach. There are a few teams that have quarterback, head coach, championship dynamic. It's not just the Patriots.
Sure. Who do you have winning the AFC Championship? Thinking about it. I like this. This is dramatic. Hold on a second.
I want to take the Steelers. I truly do.
But?
And that's where my heart is. But my head says playing at home, winning the turnover battle equals a victory for the Pats.
Patriots, Falcons in the Super Bowl in Houston. You heard it here on Jalen Jacoby on ESPN Radio. So, Jalen, they changed the way that the All-Star voting system was going to work this year. It is now a 50% fan vote, with 25% going to the media, 25% going to the players. I didn't put much stock in this. I didn't think that this was that interesting, to be honest with you, because to me, it's whether you're an all-star or not is what's important, not necessarily whether you're starting the game. However, when Russell Westbrook...
So you mean starting doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me in the all-star game. When Russell Westbrook is not starting, I start to care. It just feels like an injustice.
Yep. Because you've been watching basketball since late October.
Yep.
League pass with the remote in your hand.
Yep. White
and
falls
every
asleep.
time somebody talks about the league and they say, wow, what's stood out to you so far? Who have you said?
Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Those are the two names that have stood out to me thus far in the NBA. And I assumed that they would be the starting guards in the Western Conference. But you know what happened? Steph Curry's so cute. And he's so nice. And all the kids love Steph Curry. You know, and he shoots threes and does fancy passes. And he's got that team that's always on TV. So all the fans vote for Steph Curry. Yep. And now Steph Curry is starting over Russell Westbrook. What? This is wrong. And everybody knows that this is wrong. How do you fix it, Jalen Rose?
There's only one way to fix it is eliminate the fan vote.
Yep.
I've talked about this forever. There can't be a popularity contest when you get the chance to vote more than once. So miss me with that, everybody that continues to say, well, it's for the fans.
Well, who should vote then?
Here's who should vote.
Don't say the players.
The media and the players should vote.
Here's my problem with the players.
And the fans should vote maybe on the last two spots.
The last two spots are very important, though. Like, the last two spots are very important. I like the way that I like that one to be decided by the coaches, because that's really what's important. Not who's starting, but who fills those last spots on the roster. Though that could change lives. Here's the thing with the players. You know Bryce Johnson?
Yes.
I'm predicting that Bryce Johnson is going to be a productive player in the NBA. I loved what he did last year. How many games has he played for the Clippers this year?
Not many.
0. He's been injured. He got 2 All-Star votes from the players. What? Okay. Papa Giannis on the Kings got an All-Star vote from the players. The players are just voting for their teammates, voting for their friends, voting for people that went to the same college they did or whatever. It just doesn't seem like they take it seriously. So do you sure that they should control 50% of the All-Star starters voting?
This is a bad look for the players, this information becoming something for public consumption. And I anticipate that it won't be made a mockery like this again.
Why is that?
It's the first time for everything. And usually when you implement a new system, it takes time for everybody to embrace it as well as handle it professionally. Anytime you change a rule. And you just described that process, which now is going to become an embarrassment for the players union, each team captain, and also for the league. And all of those entities are now going to lock in step, in my opinion, and make sure that it isn't made a mockery again, so that now they don't look crazy to the media and to the fans when we think that they should be the voices of reason, but yet they're not taking it serious.
Russell Westbrook reacted to being left off the starting lineup for the Western Conference All-Stars in a very Russell Westbrook way.
Just play. I don't play for All-Star. I have All-Star bids. I play to win championships, and every night I compete at a high level, and, it'll work out.
What do you think about Russell saying he doesn't play for All-Star bids?
Well, there's a process to any goal. Mm-hmm. That's why I like to use the analogy, and, it's not like I made it up. A journey starts with a single step.
Sure.
And so you, as a fan and as a media member, we want to dumb down everybody's career or the entire regular season and just say only about the championship. But how you play in a month, how you play in a quarter, who wins the division, who wins the conference, all of that stuff matters toward getting teams towards their goals. Mm-hmm. And how does that take place? When all-star, in this case, superstar level players play as such. And when that does happen, how do you get rewarded? Team USA, all-star games, all NBA.
Yep.
Now that puts the Oklahoma City Thunder in the playoffs. So in a lot of ways, they're mutually exclusive. And so he doesn't have to bust his arm to pat himself on the back about playing in the All-Star game, because he's not surprised that he made it there. And he can't win the battle of arguing, pissing and moaning about not starting in the game, because that won't be a good look.
No, if he pulls out Steph Curry's stats and his stats and says, look at this, I'm better, it's not going to do him any good.
No. Here's what's going to happen that I'm making sure everybody gets ready for.
Ooh, what's that?
There will be a time during an All-Star. There will be a time during this year's All-Star game where 4 Golden State Warriors will be on the court with Russell Westbrook.
I love that so much. If you remember last year, they played all 4 Warriors at the same time, and I forget who they played them with. And if they do that again with Russell Westbrook, I think everyone will just sit there staring at the television and not believing that that's happening right now. I cannot wait. Russell Westbrook could conceivably not pass in 4 straight possessions. You know what's happening? Is the other team will score, the Eastern All-Stars will score, Russell Westbrook will get the ball out of the basket, he's going to look around at his teammates and call timeout. he's just like, I'm not giving it to any of these guys. I'm going to call timeout. You got to take me out. I'm subbing myself out. I'm injured. This is over. One of the benefits of this job, Jalen Rose, is being able to watch NBA basketball with my friend Jalen Rose, who once upon a time was an NBA player. And you've got some very interesting insights as we watch the game. One of which you pointed out as we watched the end of the Wizards-Knicks game on a key possession in which John Wall had the ball, was going towards the hoop, and what happened?
So a couple of things. I'm glad you reminded me of this, because I forgot that took place.
It did.
So at the Garden, a terrific back-and-forth game between the Wizards and the Knicks.
Good game.
John Wall has been spectacular, in particular the last 6 weeks, scoring, getting assists, getting steals. Deserves to be an all-star this year. The Knicks get back into the game. Before you know it, it becomes a one-possession game late. John Wall gets a rebound. Eludes Brandon Jennings with the behind-the-back dribble. Takes it coast to coast and basically dunks the basketball.
Dunks, flexes,
the
three-point
crowd
game.
goes crazy. If you're a Wizards fan. Obviously to the despair of the New York Knicks. And I remember earlier in the year when the league talked about releasing a report of calls that were missed the last 2 minutes. So here's where I pull back the curtain and say something that the game announcers didn't say, that wasn't mentioned in the interview, that wasn't talked about last night on the news cycle, has not been discussed about that play.
What happened, Mr. Rose?
John Wall doubled.
He dribbled it with 2 hands. Right when he went around Brandon Jennings, he gathered himself as his final dribble, bounced the ball with 2 hands, and then dunked it. And no one noticed except for Jalen Rose. You're like, he double dribbled. I was like, wait a second. No, he didn't. I was like, they would have called it.
I saw that live.
It wasn't even like he was in traffic or anything. He was all alone on a break, dribbled it with 2 hands. However, that's not what everyone's focusing on coming out of this game. The Knicks, that made it a 3-point game. The Knicks had one more possession to salvage a win on their home floor. They didn't get a shot up in that possession. Melo dribbled around a little bit, drew a defense, kicked it out to Courtney Lee in the corner. Courtney Lee in the corner says that he was defended by the assistant coach of the Wizards, who was on the floor with the hand up, yelling at Courtney Lee's ear. What? Take us behind the curtain. What is that experience when you're in the corner and the opposing bench is there?
The opposing bench is always going to yell when a player's shooting from the corner, and rightfully so, because you're trying to distract somebody from shooting a basketball 20-plus feet into a hoop, which is one of the toughest things to do in sports accurately. So if you could throw them off in any way, shape, or form, touch them on the leg, do whatever you can, tug at their shorts before the ball gets swung to them.
So you will make contact with opposing players while you're on the bench?
Well, the ability to do that has continued to decline with the heightened amount of cameras in the arena. So as a player that played in the mid-90s and the mid-2000s, I've seen that change. There were times where you could literally be on the bench and you could grab the guy's shorts while the ball was on the weak side, if you're thinking the ball going to get swung to him, just to distract him, get him to hit your arm down or anything. So this happens. And let me tell you something else that always happens. Coaches and assistant coaches learn the geometry of their box and where they're, in particular, playing at home. So you know when the team's taking the ball out on the side, a certain place you can stand to make the pass a little more difficult for the opponent. And so if you are creating another barrier where the player has to throw around you, but it's a legal position, it's almost like for anybody that plays ball, when you ask somebody to give you 3 feet. Okay? The reason why you're asking for 3 feet because you really need the room to make that decision. Well, the coach is able to kind of stand in your way because while you're taking out the ball, he's still allowed to stand up. And you can act like you're pointing to somebody that's out on the court, so you could take away that corner pass.
So you're oh, hey, go over there. But what you're really doing is you're sort of acting as a 6th defender in a passing lane.
No question.
Interesting.
Absolutely you're doing that. Now, however, what Mr. Lowe was doing, he's going to get a pink slip. You can't have here's what you can't do in NBA basketball. Be standing on the court with a suit, a shirt and tie.
Hard bottoms.
With hard bottoms. You can't do that. He's going to get fined for that.
But here's the thing. I would be shocked if the referee blew the whistle on that one, though. Right?
No.
Like, wouldn't you? Like the referee, you would not be shocked.
That's a blown call.
You think so?
Yes, because it's obvious and painfully so. That is a missed call, just like the John Wall behind the back. Great athletic move. Hustle and flow in D.C. looking good. You know, I give him props. Wall was throwing up the 5 after he won. But after that electric behind the back maneuver, he double dribbled.
With 2 hands.
And we're talking about the Knicks in this final play, but nobody's still talking about that play.
Here's what LeBron James said about legendary head coach Greg Popvich.
He's the greatest coach of all time. And I've said that over and over and over. I got to be able to do what he's done in an era of basketball where it's changed so much. And, you know, it went from a league where it was like inside, outside. Like every time you bring the ball down, throw it to the big. You know, and then it goes to like every time down, pick and roll. And then it goes to like every time down, shoot a 3. And Pop has been able to adjust every single time and still, for some odd reason, keep those guys under the radar.
He makes some great points.
Astute analysis, but really throwing shade at Phil. That's what this is all about. I'm not. Everybody, pump the brakes. Give me the brakes. What did Phil Jackson say about LeBron this year?
His posse's on Broadway.
Okay. So you think when somebody puts live microphones to his mouth and there could be an argument, there could be a tie to go towards the runner, that he ain't going to give anybody else the benefit of the doubt but Phil? How many rings does Pop have?
4, I think.
He has 5.
5.
How many does Phil have?
9.
He has 11.
Wow.
As a head basketball coach. And LeBron, while astute analysis, he also coached in an era where the game changed. The Jordan era, where it was mid-range, post-ups, and they were transcended because their 2 best players weren't post-up players.
No.
They were Mike and Scotty.
And then what happened in L.A.?
And people forget about those teams, and I remember because I played against them, and I'm not enthusiastic to remember this. They shot the 3. Tony Kukoc was a stretch 4. Paxson, Kerr, Armstrong, all of those guys.
In big moments.
And now you transcend to playing against them in 98 when it was Mike and Scotty to now playing against them in the finals in 2000. That's Shaq and Kobe. That was a way different style of basketball. That was the inside out. Shaq was the anchor. He was the 3-time finals MVP.
So you're making a case that LeBron's case for Popvich is not so much pro Popvich, it's more anti-Phil?
And here's where Phil reinvented himself.
Becoming a terrible president for the Knicks?
When they added Pau Gasol. That was the 4-around-1 era. Andrew Bynum post up some, but usually a common denominator for those early teams was Robert Horry. Now you look at the Kobe-led team that was really Kobe, Powell playing the 5, and Lamar Odom, who was a versatile 4. So he was able to reinvent himself in all of those eras. And I know it's easy to see him up there as president of the Knicks and want to throw dirt on his history.
Oh, I love doing that. That's what I'm here for.
The greatest coach in the history of the NBA, if you gave LeBron James some sodium pentothal, he would say Philip Jackson.
Taking shots at Phil Jackson, something both me and LeBron James love to do. Huge weekend in professional football. We will find out who will go head-to-head in Houston for the Vince Lombardi Trophy in the Super Bowl. There are 4 quarterbacks, 4 elite quarterbacks leading their teams into conference championship weekend. Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, a gentleman named Aaron Rodgers. Right now, not in their career, not going to be historically, right now, who is the best quarterback of that 4?
Tom Brady. For those that haven't been paying attention, we talk about Tom Brady's career like it's a Lifetime Achievement Award, like he's not balling right now. Like he's balling this year. People talk about his career like, oh, he has 4 rings like it was 50 years ago and he's still not putting in work. Didn't he win MVP a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Didn't they win a Super Bowl a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Didn't he come back this year after missing 4 games and has thrown 28 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions?
That's exactly what happened.
How many football games have they lost since he's been behind center?
I believe 1.
Okay. So he's balling right now. So when you teed up the question, it reminded me of the attitude of people when they talk about this topic. You said, we're not talking about legacy. Because, by the way, if we were talking about legacy,
it would also be Tom Brady. It would also be Tom Brady.
Okay. So that's the drop the mic answer to this question. Now, here's also, there's a flavor of the month. There's a personal preference. And yes, the last few years in the Super Bowl, we saw that dual threat quarterback, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, maybe this year in Aaron Rodgers. But you know what's been a consistent theme? The pocket passer.
Who was the Super Bowl winning quarterback from last year? Peyton Manning.
The pocket passer. And when you talk historical quarterbacks, are we putting Aaron Rodgers today in front of Peyton Manning? I'm not doing that just yet.
I'm not doing that either.
He has 5 MVPs, right? And 2 Super Bowl champions. 2 Super Bowl championships. So now let me talk about the guys that are playing this week.
Please do, Mr. Rose.
The fascinating thing about these 4 players is that one is the standard bearer, Tom Brady. Been there, done that. 4 championship rings. Then you have Big Ben, who also, in his own right, a future Hall of Famer, has 2 Super Bowl championships and throws the ball around the lot as well as anybody. He's been a tier A- quarterback his entire career. You might not mention him with everybody else, but he's been there. Mm-hmm. The mercurial Aaron Rodgers. Okay, his ability to transform a Green Bay Packers team into what may be a Super Bowl contending team has been fascinating, regardless of who's playing receiver, who's playing running back, who's playing defense. And the Hail Marys are just outstanding. That's just amazing. And none of those guys are winning MVP this year, in my opinion.
Who's winning MVP, Mr. Rose?
Matt Ryan. The only guy of them that hasn't won a Super Bowl. So before you go saying best, are you talking about this year?
It's about right now, this weekend.
Because if you're talking about who had the best season, usually that's going to be the person who wins the MVP. I think that person is going to be Matt Ryan.
If Tom Brady had the chance to play in the first 4 games, would he be the MVP?
Yes.
Thank you.
But he didn't.
Fair.
And since he didn't, Jimmy Garoppolo in particular.
And?
Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
The first gentleman, however, created some value around the league. Mm-hmm. To the point where now they're going to be able to flip him for a commodity. So the player I would rather have is Tom Brady. The most exciting player is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's the most fun to watch.
But that don't necessarily mean that they're going to be better than Ben and or Matt Ryan, which is why this is a legitimate question, and people are going to be waiting to see what happens on Sunday.
So you spoke about Jimmy Garoppolo, and at some point he will be filling one of the many quarterback vacancies or quarterback upgrades that are going to happen around the league. Obviously, another hot commodity is Tony Romo. So now I'm saying, Jalen Rose, which team would be the best fit for Tony Romo heading into next season?
Best fit for Tony Romo, they better have an offensive line. Because unfortunately, at this point of Tony's career, I don't see him playing 8 straight games without having some sort of injury issue. Just a wear and tear of a physical sport and a player that is not only up there in age, but his body has shown that it's clearly breaking down. But in a vacuum, if I had to give him a squad, how about you put Tony Romo with the Houston Texans?
I like it. Are you going to pay Brock and Romo, though?
You're not going to do that. So you're stuck with Brock's money. But if I had to choose a destination for him, and it wasn't a salary cap sport, that would be the place. I don't think a team like Denver's going to make that type of investment when they know what I just said.
Here's the tricky thing about a team trading assets to get Tony Romo or signing Tony Romo. You better have a good backup. Yeah. If you look at Tony Romo's career, he's not always on the field. And you have to put that in the back of your mind. It's not fair to him to say, but here's the thing. He didn't play this year. So you could sign Tony Romo, and the same thing could happen. You end up with your backup playing the entire year. Something tells me that your backup is not going to be Dak Prescott.
And also, for you football fans and media members who dismissed Peyton Manning's role from the neck up and look down at the paper and see the pedestrian numbers, and we all acknowledge that the defense carried the day. Mm-hmm. It is clear that he brought something to that football team that offense, it basically just vanished the next year with basically the same weapons. In Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, explosive offensive weapons. They haven't been able to figure out their running game. But again, for Romo, I would say the Houston Texans.
Jalen, do you ever order delivery food?
Not really.
Have you ever done it in your life? Just go.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
So usually you order, it takes a long time, and then someone delivers your food, right? Well, just like everything else, we're turning to technology. There are programs in Washington, D.C. and in California where little tiny robot 6-wheeled little vehicles will deliver you your food. And my question for you is this. If you knew that it would come 10 minutes faster, would you prefer to have a robot deliver your food?
I would not. I don't want a robot delivering my food.
Oh, I do.
I want to park my own car. I want to tie my own gym shoes. There are certain technological advances that we should continue to obviously embrace. Those are a couple I'm not. You're the person that wants a robot to deliver your food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But when you're in your vehicle, you don't want to use cruise control.
No, I don't want to use cruise control.
What?
I also feel like, and this is a great point brought up by one of our producers, don't you think these robots will just get got? Like, if you see a Domino's robot rolling down the street and you're starving, I mean actually starving, you're going to take that pizza.
Well, this is also something I learned.
What's that?
For the delivery industry. It happens a lot different based on the zip code.
Mm-hmm.
The arrival, the ability to say your address is what, and then all of a sudden click, hello. Like, what happened? I'm like, hey, can you send an Uber to this address? They like, oh, you know what? Couldn't find it. Hey, can you make a delivery to this? Hey, don't know where that is.
I'm not gonna be able to do it.
Jalen, neither of us are big video game guys.
Not anymore.
You know, not anymore. Like, I just never got bit by the video game bug. However,
I did.
There was one game that was very important to me, and that game was NBA Jam. Anyone
Jam
who's over 30
Jam
spent at least 2 years of their life just playing NBA Jam.
Yep.
Guess what? NBA Jam is back.
What?
NBA Jam is going to come back. And my question for you is this. What team would you like to play with this current NBA? Just to refresh your memory, for those who may not know, 2 players from each team on the court at the same time with an alternate sitting on the bench.
That's a tough call. I would say either Kyrie and LeBron.
It's good.
Or Steph and KD.
Steph and KD, those are just hard to beat. It's a lot of fun to think about. Think about teams like the Timberwolves. Wiggins, Towns, CP3, and Blake. Do you know who's not bad? A team that is bad would be good in NBA Jam? Porzingis and Melo. I'm excited about the NBA Jam coming back. I might even have to go out and buy a console or something. Yeah. This is going to happen. Another thing that needs to happen. All-Star Weekend is approaching. They have a celebrity game. You've coached the game against the Podfather once. And they fill the roster with notable people from all various walks of life. On Reddit, there's been a groundswell. A lot of things start on Reddit and just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this one we need to make bigger. We need to get former President Barack Obama to play in the celebrity game All-Star Weekend.
Yep.
How great would that be?
Not gonna be able to do it!
Oh, come on, Jalen! Why? Why are you crushing dreams?
This man...
He got no job.
Just sat in the Oval Office for 8 straight years.
His hair went from black to gray.
He is about to go hibernate. You think he's trying to be shaking hands and kissing babies during All-Star Weekend playing in some celebrity game?
In New Orleans, he's got no job. He has no responsibilities.
How about this? You want him to go to New Orleans. Are you going?
No.
Why?
Too many people.
Okay.
Too many people around. Randy Moss was on TNT. He said that if he played in the NBA, he could average over 20 points a game. He played high school, notably in West Virginia, with white chocolate Jason Williams. Do you think Randy Moss could have been a professional basketball player?
Straight cash, homie. That's my dude. However, there have been 4,000 individuals to play in an NBA game.
Mm-hmm.
I would deem a small fraction of those were fortunate enough to actually average 20 points for a season. Maybe 10 to 20% of those people.
Oh, less.
You're right, it is less.
Yeah.
Maybe 200 people that have walked this earth have averaged 20 points during an NBA season. I don't think he will fall into that category.
No.
Here's why. Because that would have meant he would have been balling at Marshall also.
Mm-hmm.
And putting up numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Which he clearly made the correct choice in playing football and going on to shine. And I will never forget watching Marshall with the remote in my hand at the Silverdome. Moss catches a bomb and leaps over a player. I was like, he's going to be something special. Killing it on the tube, too.
Jalen Rose, there's a highway in Wisconsin. And people noticed something strange. The highway was littered with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of red Skittles. Just red Skittles. These Skittles had no S on them, but they had a distinct Skittle smell. One side benefit about this: icy roads, they provided traction, and the nice Skittle scent. However, as people investigated the origin of these Skittles, why only red Skittles were being trucked somewhere, do you know what they learned? They learned that candy companies and bakeries will often use their rejected product to feed cattle. Are you surprised that there are cattle in Wisconsin that are on a Skittles diet?
I'm always fascinated by what happens with food that we as Americans waste on a daily basis, whether it's restaurants, large companies, homes. And so being fascinated by that topic, I am happy to hear, almost like recycling, that the food, in this case candy, that isn't getting eaten is actually being donated and or used, if not by humans, by animals.
And you know what I just remembered? I think there was something about red food dye that just was recently reported that it was bad for you. So perhaps they had to go through and filter out all of the red ones. That must have been a tough job that day. You know, whoever showed up to work that day, they were feeling good about themselves, had their cup of coffee. The boss comes in, hey, Jacoby, here's your job today. No more red ones. So you go into that warehouse full of Skittles and pluck out all the red ones. They're like, oh, man.
That's like the black jelly beans.
I have new kangaroo news, Jalen. Just in case you don't listen to the show every day. Last month, we had a kangaroo putting a dog in a headlock. Just this week, we had a kangaroo scratching at the window of a home trying to get inside.
First off, if you let a kangaroo put you in a headlock, you got personal problems.
Well, listen to this.
Their arms are way too short for that.
This is tragic. A jogger in Melbourne, Australia, was just jogging down a path, viciously attacked by a kangaroo. Stitches. I saw it. It was just cuts everywhere. Just viciously attacked by a kangaroo. She had to play dead. Only when she played dead did the kangaroo leave her alone. What? My simple question is this. Are we as a species at war with kangaroos trying to take over the planet?
Not at all.
Are you sure about that?
Continue to build and expand, it continues to happen.
I just
where
feel like we'll
shut
look
out
back
the wildlife.
at January 2017 and be like, that was the beginning of the kangaroo takeover. You don't with me? You don't agree with me? You don't think it's like Planet of the Apes? You don't think this is going to be Planet of the Kangaroos? All right, well, remember I said this. Remember, you're the first denier. You know how sometimes we make predictions or whatever and we play it later? When this world is taken over by kangaroos, I'm going to play this clip for you.
You do that. And play the clip where I said Melo's jersey will be retired by the Knicks.
Kangaroos will take over the planet is more likely than Melo's jersey being retired by the Knicks. It makes me so angry every time you bring this up. You do this just to annoy me. You like my friends sort of making fun of me. Whatever. You do it just to annoy me. I hate the idea that Carmelo Anthony's jersey could be hanging in Madison Square Garden. The planet's going to be taken over by kangaroos, Jalen. And you know what? When the kangaroo apocalypse comes, I'll be safe. I'll be protected. You, exposed. Everyone listening to this, prepare for the kangaroo apocalypse. LeBron James took a veiled shot, or not so veiled shot, at Phil Jackson when he called Greg Popovich the greatest coach of all time. Well, according to LeBron James, the greatest coach of all time lost his stuff yesterday, got kicked out of the game, fired up, screaming at officials, told him he was a terrible referee, and got escorted out away from the floor. Did it make you happy to see Popvich so upset?
It didn't make me happy.
It made me happy.
It's something that happens during the course of an NBA season. The one thing that distinguishes the Spurs from every other team, I'm about to give you guys a nugget when you watch them play.
What's that?
Their head coach has more technical fouls than any player on the team, than all of the players on his roster.
What?
Correct. So, for example, say he has 6. Mm-hmm. I bet you the rest of the team doesn't have over that. A couple of things that stand out to me for that. One,
what does that say to you?
One, they don't give away points during the game, which happens when you get a tech, which also creates momentum in a lot of cases that people don't realize happen. When I see the ball go in, guess what? I start to feel better about myself. The other thing is teams that whine a lot don't usually get the physical call because the refs are used to you whining all of the time. See you Clippers. Yep. And so based on those dynamics, you need one voice of reason, if it can be such, to fight all of the battles. He's that guy for their team.
What that very interesting nugget says to me, Jalen Rose, is that there might be something to the word culture. There might be something to what they say about the Spurs. And there might be something to them selecting players for their roster that fit in with the type of temperament that works with this team.
That's usually what successful individuals do.
Exactly.
They align themselves with like-minded individuals that have the same goals.
And if you are playing on the Spurs and you have an issue with the referee, you have faith in your head coach to address it with the referee so you don't have to do it yourself. And I feel like there are players on other teams that don't feel that way about the referees and their head coach.
I'm almost sure that they have the fewest techs in the league currently.
Another interesting news story. The Chicago Bulls are interesting in pursuing Chris Bosh and adding him to the roster. Could you see a world in which the Heat drop Chris Bosh after mid-March so they know he cannot be picked up and play in the playoffs, and he ends up on another team in another uniform in the NBA this season?
I can't imagine him playing this year, if ever again in the NBA.
Wow.
Because of the enormous health issues that he's endured and overcome. When terms like blood clots are being used to describe your health, which has nothing to do with sports, that's bigger than the score of the game. And be on a team hoping for his production to join their roster, I'm more fascinated to see the doctor that actually is going to clear him to play, knowing that those issues have really manifested themselves the way they have over the last couple of years. There's a reason why the Miami Heat don't have Chris Bosh in the uniform. It ain't because they don't want to win basketball games.
Who's on the Bulls that might be in contact with Chris Bosh?
Dwayne Wade.
Do you think he has anything to do with this? Just a little? You think maybe?
He can still go.
You think maybe? You know Chris got on the phone and was just like, Dwayne, here's what you do. You go talk to the owner and the general manager, tell them you spoke with me, then I'm feeling great and I can still play.
You know hindsight can always be 20/20, but I said this when he was throwing out the first pitch, when he was sporting Cubs gear as they won their first championship in 100 years. If the Heat and Dwayne Wade could do over, they would. I really wish they would have found a way for Dwayne Wade to remain a member of the Miami Heat. When I watch him play for the Bulls, yes, I've seen some great moments. Early in the year, he was hitting a couple of threes in the game, a couple of 20-plus point games. He's shown some flashes, shall I say. But it's not the same.
It's not.
Seeing him in Chicago, playing alongside Jimmy Butler and Rajon Rondo and Lopez on a team that's not a contender, probably will make the playoffs, may play against the Cavs in the first round, hope to win a game or two. I just think if they would have found a way to keep him in Miami, while his legacy's still going to be intact there, yes, he'll get a statue.
Statue?
Yes, his number will be retired. I just probably see a scenario that gets him back to Miami sooner than people think. Maybe even when the season ends.
Is Dwayne Wade going to play for the Heat again?
Like Ice Cube said, I dropped my bro. You can't fade me.
Is Dwayne Wade going to play for the Heat again? Is Dwayne Wade going to play for the Heat again? Are you going to answer this question? You heard it here on Jalen Jacoby. Jalen halfway predicting that Dwayne Wade will make a return to the Heat. Can we talk about Rajon Rondo for a second?
Sure.
He said he's going to play 5 or 6 more years in the league. Okay.
What?
And he said that he's interested in becoming a head coach.
What? What?
Here's the thing about that.
What?
It's good to have goals and aspirations, you know, and no one's going to limit what Rajon Rondo can accomplish except for Rajon Rondo. He can take his life wherever he wants to. But when you say to me, what is Rajon Rondo like as a player, especially the last 4 or 5 seasons, I would say that he has a contentious relationship with his head coaches. Do you think Rajon Rondo will become a head coach of the National Basketball Association?
Here's the hardest way to that goal. Alienating coaches, which he has done. They're a fraternity that really sticks together. You think the mob stick together. Oh, you can't find a coach that's going to say nothing about another coach.
Find a coach in media that's going to criticize other coaches.
And so, with that as a backdrop, he won't be able to do what Jason Kidd did and go straight from being a player to being a head coach.
How'd that work for Derek Fisher?
And so, usually, you have to start off on somebody's staff.
Mm-hmm.
You limit your options when you burn those bridges.
A lot of bridges are burned. He's on an island right now.
That's one. 2, the 5 or 6 more years, he could play, but there's a but. There's a but there. And this is, again, I talk about, this is where you go from being future Hall of Famer, perennial All-Star, All-Star. Then you become a starter. Then you become a vet. Is reinventing yourself. He has to find a way to not be the ball-dominant point guard that's going to keep the basketball for 18 seconds on the shot clock, and he does make good decisions with the ball. That part of the rules and how the game looks and is played passed him by as a guard. Look at the scoring first guards we have in the league. Isaiah Thomas, Steph Curry,
Russell
Damian
Westbrook,
Lillard,
James Harden,
John Wall. And so he doesn't fit in that vein. So when people play that spot, what do they normally now do? Other things, like a Patrick Beverley. Gives you defensive intangibles, and he makes an open three-point shot.
Mm-hmm.
In order for those years to happen, that's what's going to have to take place.
Do you think Rajon Rondo will ever be a head coach of the National Basketball Association?
No.
Me neither. Jalen Rose, this is my favorite segment now.
The final one?
No, voicemails. You call 985-80-JALEN. You can leave us a voicemail. I love this segment because you really get to hear the people. You get to feel their personalities through the phone. Let's listen and feel the first voicemail.
What up, though? Jalen Jacoby. This is JK from Japan, originally from New Zealand, working in Japan now. Quick breakdown. My wife bought 2 French Bulldogs, and I've decided to call one Jalen and one Jacoby. Also, I'm getting hate because I love Sir Charles. I want Jalen's feedback on how good Charles is, and also Jacoby, how good does he bowl?
Great questions. Great questions.
Big shout to JK from Japan.
Originally from New Zealand.
One of the destinations I have on my bucket list, are a place that I would like to visit.
I would love to go to Japan, too.
For some strange reason, I don't get the type of support from my significant other when I say I want to go to Brazil. But that's another subject for another day. Here's something I want to acknowledge that's awesome. He has 2 French Bulldogs, and he named them Jalen and Jacoby. Can we give him a hand clap? Is there some love there for that?
Of course we can. Of course we can.
One of the best compliments someone could ever pay you is that they name something or someone they love after you. I live it every day. It's so amazing. So we're so humbled by it. Thank you. That's one. 2, he said he's getting hate because he loves Sir Charles, but he didn't name his dogs after the Hall of Fame basketball player. An amazing analyst, one of my really good friends.
Can I just say one thing quick?
Jalen and Jacoby are cooler.
Those are cooler names. That's the thing. Charles is he's a better basketball player than you.
Yes.
You know, he's a great personality.
Yes.
He's a great media member.
Yes.
He's just an excellent person on this planet. But his name is Charles. You know?
And how
you can't
do you
name your dog Barkley either.
But here's the thing. If you're calling your dog in the park and you're like, come here, Charles, people wouldn't think it's after Barkley.
No.
But when you name your dogs Jalen and Jacoby, they know that you're giving the people what they want. We're international.
You know, one of our colleagues, one of my best friends, Kevin Wilds, has a dog named Barkley as well. Just a quick fact. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, yo, it's Brandon calling from station down here in Kuwait, U.S. Army. All right, and been a fan since I can remember. Since podcast is hot. No. Sorry, man. Keep getting them checks. So happy to listen to y'all every day. I go to the Wi-Fi spot every day and download y'all podcast, go back to the room and listen to it in the headphones. Nah, man, but Jacoby, you mentioned a little 9-year-old Russian girl beating up the tree. You think that's fire, man. You should go check out TFC. Tell me what you think about it, man. Once again, keep getting them checks. Get the people what they want.
We love the fact that servicemen and women are listening to this podcast.
We got to make sure we acknowledge and salute them more when we're talking about listening to the podcast at work.
That makes me want to try harder and be better. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it just feels like it's just me and you in this room. But there are servicemen and women around the globe going to the Wi-Fi spot, downloading the podcast, and listening to headphones. I'm sorry for all the bad shows we've done. I'll try harder moving forward.
The most courageous thing someone can do is be willing to sacrifice their lives and well-being for someone else, in particular their country. So all of the public service officials, in my opinion, military, police,
don't sleep on
firemen, these are individuals that are so very courageous and are called to do heroic things on a daily basis that if I got 0.5% of the responsibility that they have to carry, I'd be in a fetal position all day. So, big shout, Brandon. We appreciate the love.
And let me address this question. So he was talking about the 9-year-old Russian girl beating up a tree, which she did. She fought the tree. She won. And then he mentioned
like what you did this, huh?
TFC. TFC is one of these sort of like sanctioned riot sports. Have you seen these? It's like team fighting. So it's just like you and your homeboys get in a ring about someone else and their homeboys, and you guys just have it out like a WWE Royal Rumble. There are certain things that I just can't get with. You know, like UFC is towing the line of you know, human cockfighting. I'll just say it. They're towing the line. They are one bad event away from completely sort of damaging the sport in perpetuity. But TFC, I don't know if that one's over the line. That one's over the line. Y'all are just fighting at this point. You might as well just have it in a bar.
Yep. This is what people initially said about the UFC. In particular, when you have fighters like the late, great Kimbo Slice.
I remember.
Who went from competing in duels like you just described
Backyard
to actually
brawls.
being a legitimized professional fighter. And also, I'm big on how you resolve conflict. Especially when it's over, nobody ends up dead. And then somebody else ends up in jail. And so, if this is a way that you're able to release with your family and friends, because I, and showing my age here, grew up in an era where when we didn't get along with our homeboys on the block, we put on the boxing gloves. It went down like that. And so now it's picking up the guns. And so for a sport, I'm not going to knock the TFC. And when I'm sitting still, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to check out some of the fights like I check out battle raps when I'm online.
Let's listen to the next voicemail. Thanks so much for the call, Brandon, and all the men, servicemen and women around the globe listening to Jalen Jacoby.
Hey, this is Corey Z from Long Island. My question is for both of you. When you're playing basketball, who would you rather not be on offense against? A really physical, tough, great defender like Metta World Peace, or a just smart, savvy, veteran Shane Battier? Who's a better defender? Who's a tougher matchup for you? Thanks.
Thanks so much for the call, Corey. Strong Island, 516. Jalen, would you prefer to be guarded by a savvy veteran a la Shane Battier or someone like Metta World Peace, strong?
The toughest defenders when you're a scorer are the ones that don't gamble. This is why steals can be an overrated statistic. Because certain times, and I played against both of these guys, if I'm being guarded by Metta World Peace and he's in front of me, he's stronger than me, then I got to try to use my skill and my ability to hopefully beat him off the bounce or do a hezzy and pull up on him. But there's always a few plays in the game where somebody else is going to get the rebound and he in the backcourt trying to steal the ball. And I'm 50 feet away. Like, throw it to me. I'm open. As opposed to guys that don't gamble, like Shane, for example, Bruce Bowen, that continue to stay in front of you and probably don't get a lot of statistics, but usually the best defenders also have somebody behind them. And Tim Duncan was standing behind Bruce. So I'll give you the true answer to this question. Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen guarded 1 through 4. Legitimately. He didn't take poor gambles. He had the height to guard, the hand speed to steal the ball,
long arms,
the strength to take it from you, and yet still convert on the other end. See, the guys that you're talking about, Metta World Peace had amazing offensive years, in particular in Indiana, but he wasn't a point forward like Scottie Pippen was. So now he turned that defense into offense really quick, and he was out there with who playing D? Who was the other player on the perimeter?
Michael Jordan.
Exactly. You know who else they had out there? Dennis Rodman. These are 3 of the greatest defensive players of all time that were on the court at the same time. Now that defensive collection is something that gives me nightmares.
Let's listen to one more voicemail.
What's going on? This is Charlie from Ann Arbor, Michigan, calling from the University of Michigan campus. Jalen, this question is for you. What can I do as a University of Michigan student to press the university into putting the banners back up where they belong in Chrysler Center?
Thank you. Appreciate the love. Shout to A Squared, the Maize and Blue. This actually isn't as tricky and or difficult as it may seem. So today's inauguration day, and I don't want to use my voice to create an uproar or a protest. But to answer his question, you could get to a solution really fast. One, the long-term solution, since I've been out of school over 20 years, I think time will eventually heal all wounds, and it's going to happen.
Banners are going to go back up.
In the shorter term, to expedite the process, C-Webb apologized for his transgressions. That would go a long way into carrying the baton to then have it happen sooner. So those probably are the 2 ways, depending on if and when it takes place, whether it happens sooner versus later.
Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
You're far too kind.